Hello everybody and welcome to today's workshop on 360 video, the masterclass, week 2. Really glad that everyone can come back and join us for this exciting part 2 or week 2. Today we'll be looking at 360 video and getting the footage onto the computer. And and using this software, it's all free. It comes with the cameras. You can download it for free. And that's the best thing. There's no cost to it in the Kodak and the Gopro Fusion system that we've been highlighting. So really fantastic. And I want to reiterate that through our partners, want to thank all our partners in this project. Canada Council for the Arts. We have our library partners. We have the Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library. And these great cameras, the GoPro Fusion camera, this 360 camera, and also the Kodak Pix Pro Orbit 360, really long name. These cameras, these ones we're just getting to the library, so this is going to be a new addition that we're adding. And the GoPro Fusion cameras are currently available at the Blue Mountains Public Library and the Wasaga Beach Public Library. So you can just go and take this camera out. And that's the really fun part, is that we're showcasing this, highlighting this, talking about what's possible, what's available, but at the same time, you can go and take this out, and it's hands-on, it's ready for you to use. So that's really an exciting part of what we can offer, and what's the projects and being able to work in 360. So let's continue. So what are we going to talk about today? So today we're going to look at working with 360 footage files. Then we're going to look at GoPro Fusion, the 2-card system versus the Kodak 1-card system, and what that means. And we're going to look at viewing some media using the Gopro app, the Gopro Quick App it's called. We'll look at the Fusion Studio for importing GoPro Fusion footage. Then we will look at the Pix Pro 360 VR suite for importing Kodak 360 footage. And then we'll just talk about rendering to prepare for editing and the options with that. So in bringing the footage in, that's the fun part. We're bringing the footage in, we're getting it ready into the equirectangular, that 2:1 aspect ratio we spoke about last week, that is like a world globe, right? So we're shooting these 2 spheres and we're unwrapping them, bring them into this big rectangle that we can then edit with. It becomes like an editing file. And then we can rewrap it and it goes back to 360. And that's the really cool part of this this format, is that it has that ability to get back to 360 the format right after. Okay, so let's get right into this. So working with 360 footage files. So remember that I opened some of the files last week, but the 360 video footage will appear to be an extreme fisheye lens type footage. Now, the key is, this is what allows us to create a sphere worldview for 360 video. So each lens of the 360 video camera must capture more than 180 degrees in order to combine and overlap together to make a 360 degree video, or as we call it, 360 video. So that's really important, is that each one of these lenses, and I think this Kodak one really demonstrates it well. It's a 180 degree sphere. It's more than that. It's usually doing about 200 plus degrees. So think about 180 degrees as, if peripherally, like to the left and right of your head, and then in front of that 180 degrees plus behind you 180 degrees, combined gives us that 360 idea. But to stitch together, we need more than 180 degrees. So these cameras are shooting at a 180 plus. So usually 220, 235 kind of idea in the up to 250 degrees. So it's really extreme fisheye. And it's always, what does that really look like? And that fisheye concept, when we, look at footage, or, if we're watching footage or anything, it's a really interesting idea. So here's the GoPro Quick App. So this is just something that I just, shot from outside. And this is what we can quickly just preview. And look how we can just, I'm just spinning around with my hand, and that's the whole idea. And this is live. It's just letting me watch the footage back as it exists. So this is just in the backyard here outside the studio on this beautiful rainy day. And look how we can look everywhere, right? We can look up, we can look down, and you don't even see the camera. And that really illustrates the overlap, is that the fact is that we're not seeing even the camera. It's recording more than it exists itself. So it's that over capture is really crucial to making it work. So it doesn't even see itself. It's such a thin form factor. That's really key when we think about the 360 video and how that works, right? So that's, I think, a really neat idea is that, I wanted to show that, is that, look how much it captures. And, if we go back, look at what these images look like, just these big spheres. And it's called Little Planet. And that's kind of that idea of that, if we take some footage, and I'm just going to pull up maybe something older here from the winter. But I'm going to just kind of squeeze out, and this is that idea of look how much we're capturing. And it's the little world thing. So I just squeezed out to show both front and back and what it looks like, the equirectangular kind of zoomed out. So it becomes a square. So the rectangle into a square gives you this kind of a warped stitched view, right? And that's the idea. And and that's really the overcapture. Like look at what it's doing in terms of playing with the perspectives, right? So it feels like sometimes it could feel like it's a funhouse mirror. That's why we want to just work with that equirectangular footage. And I find sometimes the app can be a little bit confusing once we start getting into the app and what you can do with the little big planet idea versus just making it look regular. So now I've just kind of squeezed out, and here we are, kind of looking more as a regular view, right? But it is super, super fisheye, and that's the idea. So, we can play. This is me just walking at the Collingwood Harbor area, right? So, and then we're just playing with what's the horizon line, and that's really the fun part when we get into the 360 editing is what's the horizon line, what are we seeing, and how does that work? Okay, so that's the more than 180 degrees that's being captured. So again, remember this, the equirectangular image capture. It's a 2:1 aspect ratio, and it's 4096 by 2048. That's the basic standard. So it's 2:1 exactly. So 4096 by 2048, and it has that exact kind of ratio. And and that's the really fun part of what it can look like. And how it kind of blends together and works as one big map unrolled and unwound into this equirectangular, right? So just kind of like seeing that map on the wall, and this is that image of the equirectangular image. Okay, so GoPro Fusion, 2-card system. I talked about this a bit last time. Now, what I always recommend is to label each card, card 1, card 2. And the software will find stuff regardless. Like you can just put it in there. It's going to know because there's metadata and there's the information of what each clip is. But I like to do that for myself. So I mentioned this here. It's important for you as the filmmaker and editor to organize your cards so that you have card 1, card 2. You don't want to erase something by accident or you misplace one. The last thing you'd want is to copy something over from your files and it's you erase card 2 and you're missing the back. All of a sudden your 360 video is no longer 360 video, but you have a 180 degree video. So you basically have like a regular kind of GoPro shot, and now you can't do all that. So, and then the last thing here, so you're taking card 1, card 2, we're gonna look at what that looks like in a file. And remember to double back up. So you always have it on 2 hard drives. So you have it on your internal drive here on the computer, and then I'm always gonna have it on a backup drive as well. And that's really, really key. So again, the flap, there's just a little button here, and I showed this in a bit of a close-up last week, and you'll see it'll say SD1, SD2. So there's 2 cards, you click on those, they're tiny little micro SD cards, and the kits that you get from the library, you put them in the micro SD card converter, and then you can put that in the back of the iMac. It has an SD card reader, and then what we end up with is, here's the footage file, and let me just see here what we did, how I labeled these. So I have some footage here. So what I will do is card 1. I'm just gonna label this off. So card 1. I'm gonna make another one here. Card 2. Just gonna organize myself. Card 2. Okay, so I'm gonna put the and it's gonna say 100G front and 100G back. So card 1 has the G back, you can see right there, and card 2 will be the front. That's how it comes off of the system. Okay, so now what does it look like? So if I open up card 1, and then in further labeling this, I would also put this into like, what is it, right? So if we're in today's date, May 11, 2021, footage, GoPro Fusion. So the more you can label everything, dates, what is it, and themes and everything, that's really gonna help. So right there, there's my footage, May 11th, card 1, card 2. I know it's the GoPro Fusion, so just really make sure that there's no questions about what you're looking for. Then I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna just look at, and this is what the shot looks like, right? So super spherical fisheye, right? So this is what the back of the camera sees, okay? And then I'm gonna go back to card 2, and let's look at the opposite. This is gonna be the direct opposite, and this is the front of the camera. Right, so sometimes you see me, sometimes you don't, but then it's picked up in the other one. And look at that; it's like looking in like a little mirror ball, right? And it's like it looks like a fantasy shot. It doesn't even seem, it seems surreal when you look at the footage. So that's the card 1, card 2. Okay, so now let's just go. Let's look at the what's the next one here. So the next idea here is so the Kodak Pix Pro, that uses a single card. So it's just using one card, and the front and back lens image end up on the one MP4 file only, right? So this one, again, so just in terms of what the card looks like, right? So here's the Pix Pro Camera. There's a little card on the side. Again, you just click and it opens just like the GoPro, but now it's one card containing both the front and the back lens, right? So it's a little bit easier to work with because you're not having to handle the 2 cards. So that's kind of nice. But same thing, you always want to do that double backup again. So what does that end up looking like? It ends up looking like this. So I'll have Kodak, this is just card 2 from a shoot from a little while ago. You'll end up with this DCIM file here. I'm just going to double click that. 100 VR 360, and then you get all these MP4s. And this is what these look like. So they're pretty cool. This is just me, I think, making sure it's working. Right, so this is just from the Calling with Terminals, this little project just working on to capture the terminals in 360. So here you can see one camera is a little bit different than the other. It has 2 different lenses, this camera system. There's a wider fisheye, and you can kind of see it like this way, so it's a bit wider. And there's a thinner one here. So the thinner one is on the screen right, and the wider one is sorry, the other way around. The thinner one is on screen left, and then the wider one is on screen right. You can see it's more spherical because it's super wide, like 240 degrees, I believe it is, or more in that kind of range. So those 2 are just recorded on the same card. That's all the information that it needs. So like the sphere, these 2 squares, and then it's going to combine it together. And that's really nice. That's how easy it is to work with that footage. That's the clip, an MP4 clip, and you're ready to go. There isn't any kind of combination. So you can quickly, kind of look through your footage and see what you got, and get a sense of what's happening in it and so on. So you can quickly kind of skim through and go, okay, it's looking good. So it's recording right on there. So there isn't that idea of bringing the 2 cards together. So that's a little bit different, but it's convenient, but we're achieving the same thing. Okay, so let's continue on here. So GoPro Fusion and the View Media on the app. So let's just quickly look at the GoPro Quick App. We were just playing that back a second ago. So what you do is you use the Quick App here. So it would start like this. Mountain Goat Fusion is my GoPro Fusion camera here. And what I'll do is go to View Media. And then it's going to just load up all the media like so. And I can click on these and pull them up. And it lets me see what they're like. And I'm just in a different orientation right now. Okay, there we go. Now it's happy, the iPad. Right, so you can see that's me carrying the camera, right? And then different kind of shots. And then it lets me, I can play it back. I can do some quick edits. So this is just like, if you're familiar with the GoPro app, this lets you do kind of that, what they call quick stories with GoPro. But they're pretty, like you can bring in the footage, but your iPad isn't designed to handle you know, this kind of 4K footage. So the idea is you can make a little quick social media thing, you know, play around with it, make it, you know, we can make it a little planet and, you know, spin people around and, you know, make things weird and, you know, have some fun with the footage and like, you know, that kind of experience. But it's definitely not the, you know, the highest kind of level of what we can do with the video footage. But it's great to be able to just play back and see what we got. Now the beauty is when I play it back, here it is paused. Watch when I move the iPad around, it becomes like a virtual set of goggles. So I can actually see where I am and what it looks like. So that's really cool. It's a cool feature that it works in the gyroscopes of being able to move everything around. So that's great. So that's really the GoPro app and how that works, right? So the next thing we want to do is how do we look at importing and stitching footage in the Fusion Studio. So we can use that GoPro Quick App, play stuff back, we can cut stuff down, we can, you know, make these little big planet kind of super fisheye looking things. But what we need to do is import and stitch it. And this is going to be on a desktop. So it can be on a laptop, desktop, but we need that computing power at the end of the day. You know, just to give you an idea, even a few years back, started working in this, in the 360 video realm about 2016 or so. So it's been 4 or 5 years now where working in this with this medium. And sometimes in the past, like, you know, 1 minute of rendering on one of my older computers, it would be taking 4 or 5 hours. And now we can do these things in 4 or 5 minutes. So that kind of computing power, processors, RAM, GPU stuff, this is where the computers start to need a little bit more power and juice to really work. The good news is that all the libraries are equipped with the iMacs that can handle this footage really easily and render quite quickly. So you don't have to worry, even if you have an older computer, you can access these iMacs. So again, Blue Mountains Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library, Collingwood Public Library is getting computers now, and once everything's reopened again for library access, you can get in there. You can take out the cameras now, just keep your footage, back it up on hard drives if you don't have a strong enough computer. Otherwise, if you can do it, work on it. If you find that it's really slow, then, you know, try a little bit, and then you can get to these digital art stations at the libraries in a future date with that footage. So, you know, all is not lost. Just be creative, go out there, you can keep shooting. That was the main thing of getting you out there with the cameras, filming in 360, and then we're going to learn about what we can do. This will be available for you to keep rewatching, so you can go back to this as a reference later. But we want to take you through the journey of what it's like to put it together and demystify what looks always still, you know, to me it always can look complicated, but these cameras are super simple, point and shoot, press record, bring them in, the stitching's really quick, and then the editing you'll find is just as easy as editing other video. So it's really not complex, and we're going to take you through these stages. Okay, so to edit and work with 360 footage, we got to make this equirectangular idea, right? So stitch the front and back camera views together as one big video, and as a 2:1 aspect ratio file. So GoPro Fusion Studio, it's designed to import directly Fusion. That's why it's called GoPro Fusion Studio. Takes the footage from both cards and stitches these together to prepare the footage that for editing, so then we can bring it into DaVinci Resolve. We're going to use a plugin called Boris Continuum VR that lets us play around with things like put titles. We can reorient things, and we can preview things to watch it back as a 360 video. So really robust. That plugin is it costs a little bit of money, but you can access it again through the libraries to do the final editing. Otherwise, you can do 360 editing if you already have Adobe Premiere. You can use Adobe Premiere. It has some plugins built in, but it is a subscription model. So the Boris Continuum Effects plugin is about $200. But that's a one-time cost forever. So cost-wise, it's a little more effective than you know, if you just take Resolve free, and then you're adding a $200 cost. It's still going to be less than having Premiere over the course of a year if you want to do 360 video in your own home, right? So that's kind of the fun thing there. So okay, so let's look at what's going on here. So the 360 footage, what does that mean? And and how's this all going to work. Okay, so let's have a look quickly at what that does in terms of the footage here. I'm going to just open up the studio software. So let me just go down here to the icon. So here we are, get started with Fusion Studio. So what I'm going to do is add media. I'm not going to connect the camera or anything. It's going to ask, would you like to access removable files? Sure. I don't think I've actually opened it on this computer before. I'm just going to find them. So I just have them organized here. And you can see it's right here. And I'm going to say open. And you just find that top directory. So I've called it, May 11th, 2021 footage. And we're going to just go from there in terms of, getting the footage, and we're going to open it up. Oh, you know what? I just realized the whole file hasn't been copied over. So we're gonna just have to access another file here. Let me just find the right file here. That's a good example, actually. I think I'm missing some of the metadata. I grabbed just some of the footage. So let's have a look here. 360 masterclass. Let's see what we have. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to copy some stuff over, but what we'll do in the meantime, let's get us going in terms of what's available with the Kodak Pix Pro Camera. So we're going to get that one up here, and let's just, I'm going to switch the folders over here, and we're going to switch over. Let's just see what we have. I think I have some stuff on this other hard drive. We'll find a drive that we have all this on, no problem. Just gonna get one of these working drives over here. Yeah, this should be it right here. Find a drive with some 360 footage handy for the GoPro Fusion app. We'll get this going. So again, yeah, so here's the file, playing that back. Let me see what's on this here. Okay, so I think we're going to find some, yeah, we actually have some great shots in here. And let's get one more. Well, I think I have the behind the scenes stuff here, so we're almost here. Let's just try one more drive here. Yeah, just sorry for this slight delay here. We're gonna get this sorted out. It's just a matter of just the presentation computer just has some different files on it, so I just want to get the right ones going. Media is right here. Okay, here we go. This is the footage I'm looking for. Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's get a new folder here. GoPro Fusion. So I'm just gonna get us back here. So this is the good news. So we got everything right here. So I'm just gonna go card 1, card 2, put it all in here, and we're gonna get it all into right onto this drive here. So let's just continue here. That's going to copy over for a couple minutes. So let's have a look at the app here. So the quick app in terms of what we can do. So we can go into like the edit mode here. I'm just going to hit the edit button. And see, we can kind of scroll through here. And then what you can do is you can go to download your footage, and you can create like a an edit of your file, right? So And here's the gyroscope too. So if you can turn this off so that it actually won't move it around, right? So that's a great option there as well. So I'm just going to turn it back on so we can actually see it, because I always like to be able to see that. I think that's fantastic. Okay, so we're almost copied over here. So let's look, I'm going to jump forward. We're going to go to the Kodak camera next, just so we can keep moving along. So the Kodak 360 Pix Pro camera, you just click on the icon, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the disk here, and you just find your footage. So you want that DCIM file like that. So you just need the top directory. So I just hit the DCIM and hit open, and it's going to load all the footage, right? So I think what's key there is that's what I want to show you guys. So the Kodak card, you can't open the MP4s directly. It wants you to click on that DCIM folder. So that's really key to remember. And then from there, look at this. Now I'm totally stitched. It's taken that shot. Let's kind of let's recall what this looks like. So in the DCIM, right, I'm just going to go to this shot right here. So this is what it looks like. It's two different spherical angles. I can't do anything with that. It's not 360. This isn't 360 in this shot, right? So I'm just going to pull this shot up right here. This is not 360, but it's just those two front and back. And look what it's done automatically in the software. And let's just make this a bit bigger. I think I can go full screen here. Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, so here's what it looks like. So I can actually watch this back in 360. And look, I can spin it around and see the whole thing, how it's shot. I can look up and down. And I think that's just fantastic how right away it's done. Right? So that lets me do that. So now what you can do is you can take the whole shot, but I can put in and out markers here. So, you know, let's say here someone's leaving because they started the camera, and maybe I don't need before that. So I'll just like let them leave. I'll just get when it's empty. So all of a sudden, you know, my shot is a lot shorter. So instead of rendering 35 seconds of the whole clip, I can render, you know, half of that, like 15 seconds. Then it gives me some adjustments. So I can go to view modes. So I can just look at the front lens up, down, and so on. So right now we're like this. I can go lens up. So let me see up. I go back to this one. So this is a quick way to toggle down without having, if you don't have like a mouse or anything. Then you can do some fine-tune adjustments and lens calibration. So it's, you know, it says, does it include the front cover, excludes it, and with waterproof case. So there's different options. So basically you put it in how you've done it. So the front camera, that's referring to the fact that there's this front lens cover, right? So that's just like a anti-scratch, and it's a waterproofing. And there's another waterproof housing as well that can be on top of that. You can see here, lens A is 155 degrees, lens B is 235 degrees. So that's that. That's the default. So I don't need to do anything because you can see it's smooth. I don't see any like the stitch point. Again, this is a bit of a darker shot here. So maybe here, let's go to something a bit brighter. I'll go up to this one. Look at this. So this is on the top of the terminals here, looking out in Collingwood. So it looks pretty smooth, right? You don't really see where there's a stitch line or anything. So that's pretty nice. But if there was any kind of problem, I can go in here and I can adjust that points. But it's all designed to default and work. I can also go to the optical flow stitch. And what it does is it gives you a little bit, you can see down here, that's where that stitch line is. And watch as I uncheck it. See the optical flow? It's just making it smooths it out. So we don't see that like real noticeable stitch part, right? And it's not going to be perfect. The point is that the human eye is not going to notice the slight nuances because it's so, you know, kind of overwhelmed by the beauty of the footage that's viewable. So it's kind of nice that way that it can actually, you know, work in that kind of method. So same idea. So that's that. Then I can go to effects. So I can play with, contrast. I can make things a bit brighter, less saturation. So sometimes some people, I myself like to usually reduce saturation a little bit, so that I can then play with that a little bit more in the color grading period of time after that. So, so that's always a really cool thing. So that can work nicely. So yeah, okay. So now let's look at what does it mean to, what do we do from there? So that's the lens calibration effect. Okay, and then what we can do is we just go up here to export. And here I can say what the output size should be. So this one works in 3840 by 1920 as its maximum. And you can go magic flat, or you can do VR 360, that you can actually have that spinning. So for editing, we want VR 360. And we just need to browse and put it somewhere. So what you want to do is, I always put it in some sort of a folder that's going to be brand new. And I'll call it Kodak 360 renders. Create. And I like to even be more specific to make sure I'm not erasing over anything. Rendered. Right? So we're calling that shot that it's rendered. Okay, we go OK. And here we go. It's going to render it out. And it's going to just take a little bit of time. So I'm just going to stop that just so we can have, I'm going to make this a little bit shorter. So just watch this. If I started about 10 seconds, I'm going to make it about, just a short clip like that. So let's export that now. So same thing, I'm just going to browse. I'm going to go back to that folder, 360 renders. Just going to go over that. I'm going to replace that. Okay, I'm going to say OK, and here we go. It's going to render it out. It's going to be pretty quick since I'm just doing it in and out. So about, look at that, 10 seconds. It's going to be pretty fast. We got this done in about 20 seconds here. You can already see that equirectangular shot in its rendered position. And then we're just going to go finish, right? So you can see here I'm moving around, and right. So now let's exit this from full screen. So let's have a look at now. I'm going to just go to that rendered folder. Oops, I have it over on this other drive. We'll find it right here. Go to Kodak 360 renders and pull it up. So look at that. So it's rendered this out as a 360 equirectangular. So that's quite nice. So now this is ready to edit. That's exactly what we need to edit with. You can see like everything wrapped around. So I can no longer move this image around, but this is now what we're going to work with in the editing. Both cameras stitched together, looks quite nice. And I'm not seeing any kind of artifact issue that's highly noticeable. You can always find the stitch lines in the 360 video somewhere, but that's what we'll look at, is how we can make them as hidden and as nice as possible. But that's looking really nice to me. I'm not seeing any major issue with that. That looks really clean. Okay, so now, that just opens up an MP4. It just opens up as if it's in a QuickTime. So I think we got everything copied over. So I'm going to go to the Fusion Studio now, and I'm going to add media. Okay, I'm going to go back into the 360 masterclass right here, and GoPro Fusion. I'm going to hit open, and it's going to load all the media in that I have on that card. And then here we go. It takes a little while. So this tends to be a little bit kind of heavier in terms of, computing again. But here's all the shots. It's gonna kind of basically stitch them together how we want them. And then you have some options. So right now we're in the edit mode. And let's make this bigger again so we go full screen. So we're in the edit mode. I can click on any one of these. And the first thing it lets me do is I can adjust my horizon lines in the editing. And then see it's just taking a little bit of time to compute. Right, so that lets me kind of figure out what's going on. So it's very similar in terms of the the programs, except this has to do some real stitching, since it needs to stitch together the two A and B cards, or cards 1 and 2. So same thing here. I just was walking out of the frame, so I can make the in point when I'm out of the frame. So you really want to just render what you need. You don't want to render any excess because the files are all like 4K in size. So we only need to render, that 12 seconds, let's say. Okay, so now what we want to do is it has some options. So full stabilization is really important because that will get rid of any kind of movement if the camera was moving. So I always like to leave it that way. And the pitch and yaw, that's just me playing with it here. You can see how that's adjusting itself as we move it around. Okay, and now I can go to settings. Now in settings, it lets me choose how to export this. So you can go flat, and if we go flat, that's kind of like that idea of using camera raw or raw format where it doesn't have all the information. So I like to render it out flat so that I can then add all the colors in after when I'm editing and doing color grade, right? So notice the difference here. This is the GoPro color saturation added, and this is flat. And flat lets me play with a lot more stuff in the post-production of it. So then you're gonna just go add to render queue. And then here it gives you some options. What are you gonna do? So Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo. We wanna go to editing because at the end of the day, we're gonna edit. 5.2K, 4K, 3K, 2K. So we're gonna just go 4K. And also lets you keep the ambisonic 360 video audio, or you can just do it in stereo. Right, so we're gonna talk about what that means, the ambisonic 360 type video audio, but we're gonna just render it out in stereo like that. So I'm gonna go create the render queue. Now what I like to do too is I'm gonna click on this, and they use this thing called Cineform 422. So that's really specific to like GoPro's format, the video codec. So what I like to do, the video codec here is go H.264. Let me just see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. Yeah, here we go. So the video codec, instead of the Cineform, I go either H.264 is going to be pretty small, or I like to go ProRes 422. And then you can see it gives you the options to change everything here. So dewarp, parallax, compensation, that gives you a really clean cut point. So this is what I usually do for master. Like if I have a big enough hard drive, I'm not worried about space, then I'm doing basically ProRes 422, 4K, stereo, and we're ready to go in that manner, right? And that's it. And then when you can load up all the different clips in here, and then we can render them. So let's go back to edit. We'll find another clip, let's say like a bit of a moving clip. And we'll look at it here. So I think I'm just walking with the camera. Okay, so we'll just get, and this will be fun because it's me carrying the camera. And here what you want to always look at is what's the front. And you don't have to even worry about it too much because we're gonna figure this out as we edit. We can create the fronts and backs of these. Okay, so let's just make it in and out about 10 seconds or so. So you want to just render exactly what you're going to use, right? And the horizon line looks pretty nice here. I'm going to go again back to that flat color, like so. Add to render queue. And then we're going to click over here to the render queue. And what I'm going to do again, I'm going to click on that. I want to go to the ProRes. Zoom in here again. So ProRes 422, stereo, and that looks great. Okay, so then I can go Command A to select all, Command A on the keyboard, and then I'll render selected. Now the one more thing I should do is just go to the actual settings here, preferences, and here is where you can decide where you're exporting to. So it's putting itself into a specific folder. So I'm just gonna choose another folder. I'm gonna go right into like my editing drive here, masterclass, and I'm gonna create a new folder, GoPro Fusion renders. Now I like to always call everything that if it's being rendered, because you don't want to have any confusion in terms of where it's going. So now, see, I've set that up. So the export location is going to that master drive, or it could be any drive you choose. So that's just in the preferences before you render out. I always like to do that. So you go up here to Fusion Studio Preferences and choose where it's going to export to. Otherwise, it's going to do like a default from wherever you brought the footage in. It's going to bring it out to that same kind of spot as well, right? So that'll be kind of the idea there. Okay, so let's go here. I'm going to render these two. Okay, so I've selected those two ProRes, and we're ready to go. So I'm going to render selected, and you see it's about 705 megabytes and 1,000, so about a gig for the slightly larger one. It's going to take a bit of time, so now we can just kind of let it do its thing, and you know, kind of we can go from there. So I just want to see if if we have any questions. I put my email up. You can email me if you have questions about 360 video, getting camera access. Again, like I said earlier, with the access for the 360 cameras, the Kodak cameras are coming soon to all our library partners. The other two, Wasaga Beach and Blue Mountains Public Library, currently has the GoPro Fusion. You don't need to do any kind of a test. You just need to have a library card. So go take it out, access it, and it'll be a lot of fun to go. So here's just the rendering. You can see it's a bit, you know, it's taking a bit of time. This one's, again, it has to stitch the two cards together. So, you know, you can just leave that running. It's going to take up a lot of your computer's processing time. You can see it's kind of slow to close and stuff, right? But, and that's it. And I'm going to actually get rid of the, we still have the Pix Pro, so I'm just going to get rid of that because it's using a little bit of RAM too. So yeah, I have both apps running. So we're going to just close one of them. That should help a little bit with the speed. Yeah, now we're going a lot faster there. Yeah, definitely a lot faster. So that's just something to note there as well. If you're use the app once and then use the one again. So do all your Kodak renders, then do all your GoPro renders. So once everything's rendered, right? So here's the Pix Pro. We looked at that. We looked at the. So remember, after importing and stitching, then you have a final MP4 or MOV, and that's what you can use for editing. So 360 video will be edited together just like your regular video, except it just has that unique 2:1 aspect ratio, and that can be wrapped together. So that's what's working together as a sphere. So yeah, if you have any questions as we just kind of wrap up here today, just shoot me an email, tom@tbmcs.ca, questions about upcoming programs, courses, and the equipment. If you have questions about 360 video, be happy to chat more about that. If you've taken the camera out and you have any questions technically about using the camera, I'm hoping that people can at least take the camera out, follow along, and if you don't have access to Adobe Premiere or you want to use the computers with the Continuum, you'll be able to access that as soon as our library partners are open again for public access to the system. So that's a really great thing. So I'm just going to let that render out. We'll have it ready for next week. It's going to probably take another 5-10 minutes, so that will be done. Really want to thank everyone for joining us. I hope that was a fun session on how to get all of this working and making it function. I want to thank all our partners in making this happen. So we have the Canada Council for the Arts, and then we have our library partners. So we have the Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, and the Wasaga Beach Library. Thanks again for joining us. It was a pleasure to share some insight into this 360 video world. I think it's really exciting. And next week, we're going to look at editing it in Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve and bringing that footage in that we've rendered today. So we have it off our cards, we've rendered it, we've stitched it, it's ready to edit. There's going to be a lot to do in the editing. So we'll spend the last 2 sessions really looking at the editing workflow in 360 video. So thanks again for joining us, and I'll see everybody next week. Have a great rest of the day.